The government of Ethiopia says that it's accepted an invitation to hold peace talks later this week in South Africa with fighters from the Tigray region. The invitation was issued by the African Union. The TPLF and Ethiopian government forces have recently been engaging in clashes following a 5-month ceasefire.
Redwan Hussein, National Security Advisor to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, says Ethiopia wants to resolve the conflict in Tigray in talks without preconditions. The Ethiopian government has, however, made it patently clear that peace talks should be mediated by the African Union. AU negotiators want peace talks to commence and have announced a date and venue for the proceedings. Tigrayan forces have not yet commented. The conflict in the Tigray region has seen scores of people displaced and has led to a massive humanitarian crisis. Fresh fighting resumed in the northern Tigray region in August, breaking a 5-month humanitarian truce. The truce was agreed to allow aid to enter the region of Tigray, where thousands have died in a brutal civil war and millions are in need of basic supplies. Both sides have blamed each other for the resurgence in fighting.
The United Nations says that it remains supportive of African-led initiatives to bring the warring sides in Ethiopia closer towards peace in the region.
We've always been extremely supportive of the African-led initiatives to bring the sides together in Ethiopia, to see an end to the violence and the armed conflict that we've seen there, which has impacted millions of people. I mean, just yesterday, I think I gave you a pretty detailed humanitarian update, and the kinds of numbers that we keep talking about every week are frankly saddening and shocking for what is, at the end, a man-made humanitarian crisis. It is important that we see a cessation of hostilities. The Secretary General has called for them and continues to call for them. It is also important for all the parties to protect civilians, to protect civilian infrastructures. We have seen in numerous situations civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, being targeted. We've seen the latest media reports regarding airstrikes that could have killed dozens of people. We're not in a position to confirm it as of yet.
So the Ethiopian authorities say that they're ready to talk. Well, let's get some thoughts as we are joined by Dr. Hafte Gebresilassie, who's the Secretary of the Tigray Association here in South Africa. Dr. Gebresilassie, always good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. What is the situation in terms of the Tigrayan government speaking to the Ethiopian federal government? We know invitations have been sent out to both parties. Do you know if the Tigrayan government will be at the talks in South Africa?
Thank you very much, Peter, for having me. Actually, the government of Tigray expressed its commitment to a peaceful resolution of the current conflict on September 11, 2022, which you may remember I was your guest, where the African Union welcomed to the statement of the government of Tigray. And even today, this evening, the government of Tigray also sent a statement to the African Union that the government is sending a negotiating team to sit for a peaceful resolution here in South Africa. But the government of Tigray also raised important concerns, 4 important concerns in the statement. The first one is if cessation of hostilities is part of the substantive agenda, because the 2 regions in Addis and Asmara are busy with wiping out the people of Tigray. As you may see from the media, on September 27, 2022, the invading Isaias regime Air Force dropped bombs on residential neighborhood in Adidaro, which is the northern, the northwestern of Tigray, killing civilians and reducing residential homes to ashes. Secondly, yesterday, in the same area in Adidaro, the northwestern Tigray, the federal government of Ethiopia displayed the genocidal brutality through horrific drone strike against internally displaced persons. It is against internally displaced persons, civilians, and children, where hundreds of people are killed and other hundreds of people are wounded. And what makes this deadly is that there is no life-saving medication for the wounded ones. So the number of deaths is increasing from time to time due to the absence of medication as a result of the blockade. So this is the first issue that the government of Tigray raised if cessation of hostilities is part of the substantive agenda. The second one is the incorporation of additional actors to be inviting, maybe as a participants, as observers and guarantors. Because in the last 2 years, you remember Abiy Ahmed has betrayed the international community. Abiy Ahmed has defied the United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, that he would stop the blockade while the blockade is still in place. So we don't want to be betrayed again. The government and the people of Tigray don't want to be betrayed again. So the government has raised this important issue that the incorporation of additional actors to be invited as participants, as observers and guarantors. And the third one is the role of the international community as well. And the last one is travel and security arrangement for the negotiating team. You know, we are 360-degree blockaded, so we are sieged. So for that matter, the government of Tigray wants to make sure that the African Union has arranged travel and security arrangements for the negotiating team. But today, this evening, the government has sent a statement which explains its readiness to sit for a peace talk here in South Africa.
All right. It looks as if there's quite a number of issues that are of concern. And I will look at the first one, the cessation of hostilities. Is that a situation that you would say is not negotiable? For as long as there is fighting going on, are you saying that the Tigrayan government is not in a position to begin talks?
Yes, what I'm saying is people are dying. I mean, as we speak, around 1 million military invaders are surrounding Tigray and wiping out the people of Tigray at a large scale. You know, this genocidal war is happening right now at a large scale. So while the people are dying there, while the Eritrean forces, the Amhara occupation forces, the Ethiopian forces are killing the people of Tigray, how can you sit for this kind of negotiation? So it should be part of this negotiation. I mean, cessation of hostility should be part of this agenda. That's what the government is asking. If the African Union just take this cessation of hostilities as part of this substantive agenda for discussion.
The last time we spoke, there was concern about perhaps how the AU person, Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, was managing the peace process. Does it make a difference now that you've got former President Kenyatta and former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka as part of the negotiating team? Do you think that this brings a bit more to the African Union's ability to resolve this conflict?
Yeah, I would say yes. There are two criteria in this regard. The first criteria is how the negotiating or the moderating parties, the mediators are capable enough to understand the complexity of the Ethiopian politics. That is why the government of Tigray has picked Uhuru Kenyatta as one of the moderators, as one of the negotiators, or as one of the mediators, because Uhuru Kenyatta is I believe that capable enough to understand the complexity of the Ethiopian politics and the conflict in particular. and also including South Africa, including Special Envoy Obasanjo and Uhuru Kenyatta, would make some sort of inclusiveness in the discussion. So one is how capable are these individuals to understand the complexity of the Ethiopian politics. The second one is how impartial these mediators will be in the point of discussion, and how South Africa, we believe we are Africans. The people of Tigray are Africans, and Tigray is in Africa, and we believe that African solution to the African problem, we are not against this one, as long as those negotiating parties are capable enough to understand the issue, as long as the negotiating parties are also impartial to treat both parties in the conflict.
What do you expect from these first round of talks? One gets a sense that it's really going to be talking about rules of engagement rather than the actual engagement itself.
As I explained before, I don't expect anything that the government of Ethiopia will do to address the problem. Actually, a leaked report from the government of Ethiopia confirms their strategy, their vision is to implement the strategy being used in Biafra of Nigeria and in Tamil Tigre of Sri Lanka, which will have a significant ramification on Ethiopia and Africa in general. So unless the mediating party, unless the international community, unless the African Union put a meaningful pressure on the government of Ethiopia to sit for a meaningful and peaceful resolution, I don't expect the government of Ethiopia have an appetite to address the problem. One, even if the government of Ethiopia has interest even to sit and to address the problem, Eritrea is escalating the issue. So I hope that the mediating party, the African Union, will take this serious into consideration, that they should put pressure on Eritrea to withdraw from Ethiopia, because Eritrea is a foreign country. As long as I know, Eritrea is a country, and Eritrea is registered as a country in the United Nations and the African Union. But Eritrea is escalating the problem. Eritrea is killing peoples of Ethiopia. As long as I know, Tigrayans are Ethiopians. So the government of Ethiopia has invited a foreign invading force to annihilate its own people. So now even the African Union should take this as an important agenda and say, and put a meaningful pressure on the Eritrean government to withdraw entirely from Ethiopia in general and the territories of Tigray in particular.
Dr. Gebresilassie, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for giving us some thoughts on this pending peace process that might take place in South Africa. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's where we'll leave it. Dr. Hafte Gebresilassie, who's the Secretary of the Tigray Association in South Africa, giving us his reaction to these proposed talks that are should take place in South Africa. The Tigrayan government has said that they will come through, but they've got a number of issues that they are concerned about. The Ethiopian government says that they are ready to talk with no conditions on the table. So we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you on top of that.